Welcome to Gabby, the Marriage and Family podcast, where it will be okay. We are your hosts, marriage counselors Terrell and Tanisha Pugh. We are a family of 9 who, after the death of our daughter, learned that life was going to be okay. And now, we help other families in distress realize the same. Are you ready to heal and learn that your marriage and family will be okay? Well, let's get started. Hello, this is Terrell Pugh, and thank you so much for listening to the Gabby podcast. How would you like to do what you love, working with couples as a marriage coach or with individuals and families as a Christian counselor? Well, we can help you over at tntpugh.com. That's tntpugh.com. Hey, we'd love to help you get started today, again, working as a marriage coach or a Christian counselor. Head over to tntpugh.com. Thank you.
Welcome back to the Gabby podcast. I'm your host, Tanisha Pugh, and
I'm Terrell Pugh.
we're so happy you've decided to tune in again this evening. We're going to continue our talks surrounding trauma. In a prior episode, we defined trauma. We talked about how couples or families may experience trauma, the different types of trauma, and our last episode, we discussed financial trauma, and we're going to just continue that conversation. So.
Yes, we're going to continue talking about financial trauma. The previous episode more or less focused on the brain and how financial trauma is interpreted by the brain.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and just a brief recap, money to the brain means 3 things. It means survival,
Mm-hmm.
okay, broken into either life or death. So that's really 2. So life or death. And then the third thing money interprets, or your brain interprets money as, is social,
Yes.
a social need.
Yeah.
Okay. So for example, if you have a little bit of money, that might trigger in you that you're going to die and you need to do something so that you can live. That's the life value.
Mm-hmm.
Also, if you sense the threat that maybe poverty will come upon you, that's the death value. And both of those move you to make certain decisions and behave in a particular way.
Yes.
And then the third value we talked about was social, meaning depending on what you do with that money, let's say money, you value it and it can buy you friends, quote unquote, then you will act in such ways that you value money because it gives you a social status.
Right.
But the reverse can happen where maybe the messages you received was that money was bad. And so your social group, the only way they will accept you is if you shun money, right?
Yeah.
If you live sort of just
Modestly.
or not even modestly. I think
Modest
modestly is good.
actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But maybe if you live like a self-deprived life because of the understanding or thought or belief that money is not good.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
That's actually a traumatic
Response.
behavior, right? So we're going to actually talk a little bit more specifically about that. And we're talking more specifically to the question of why individuals who have access to resources, access to money, and access to opportunity, why might those individuals struggle with finances, with managing money, with poverty, with all of those financial issues?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And essentially, it's financial trauma. So that's what we're talking about today.
Wonderful. I think that this is going to be very helpful for you to maybe have some of your friends tune in. Please take some notes. I think this could be very helpful. It was helpful for us to kind of discover certain things about some of our own behaviors and implement or make certain adjustments that would ultimately shift us out of what appeared to have been a cycle response to trauma.
Absolutely. And so one of the things that we're going to need to better understand this, okay, I'm going to introduce what's called Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Now, some of you listening to this, hearing that, if you're a school teacher, if you're a counselor yourself, or maybe if you're in a related field where that model has been used, you know what that is. If you don't know what that is, I'll explain it. Or do you want to explain it? How do you want to do this?
Well, I know I remember being first introduced to it in school.
In school. Yeah.
Yeah, in a sociology class. I think it was a philosophy or sociology class. But
Hmm.
yes, Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Hmm.
Basically, it's the pyramid of needs where it starts with the foundational needs that people need to
Hmm.
survive.
That's right.
And those are the basics, right? That's the
Hmm.
physiological needs, right?
Absolutely.
Food, right? If you don't have food, you will
Food.
die.
That's right. Physiological, referring
Mm-hmm.
to the body's natural needs. Hmm.
Yes, yes. And just to kind of veer off just a little bit, I recall having a revelation on there was a time in our spiritual walk where we didn't prioritize, maybe providing maybe food banks or things like that. We more prioritized the spiritual needs of people
Hmm.
over the physiological needs. And I remember there were conversations at times where, maybe statements were made of, we want to give people food, but what we need to do is tell them about Jesus.
Yes. Yes.
And
Yes.
I remember when I think you and I were talking, and
Hmm.
we had the revelation of, well, people won't be able to receive this information or good news about Jesus if they're thinking, if I don't eat tomorrow, I'm gonna die.
Right. If that's right. If I have stomach cramps, if I'm
Mm-hmm.
hungry, if my basic physiological needs are not met, I
Yeah,
can't think about higher order needs, which will
exactly.
explain what some of those are. Hmm.
Yes, yes. So even Maslow's hierarchical needs, they were scripture already talked about it.
Yeah.
Talk
Yeah.
to read the book of James.
Right. And I mean, and Jesus fed people, right?
That's
He multiplied the
right.
food.
That's
Um,
right.
you know, I'm almost positive that if Jesus would not have multiplied the food in that particular instance,
Hmm.
he would not have drawn as many
As he did.
individuals,
That's right.
right? And not only that. So here's the other thing.
Mm-hmm.
When he performed miracles,
Mm-hmm.
right? When he healed people, he
Yes.
delivered them, he set them free.
Yes.
What he was doing was he was tending to their basic physiological needs.
My God.
Hmm. He
That's
was tending to those
powerful.
basic needs.
That's right. Yeah,
Hmm.
that's right. That makes good sense. And it goes back to James when he said, if your brother's hungry,
Hmm.
don't tell him, you have faith, move on, move forward, you'll be all right.
That's right.
No, give him something to eat.
That's right.
Give him
That's
something
right.
to eat.
That's right.
But yes, so that's the basic foundation.
Yeah, that's the basics. So that's if you're looking at this on YouTube, I may put up a a graphic. But if you're just listening to this as a podcast, I just want you to envision a triangle, okay?
Yes.
And at the base of the triangle are the physiological needs.
Yes,
Okay.
that's right.
After the physiological needs, excuse me, I had something caught in my throat.
You okay?
Yeah, I think I'm okay.
I
But
don't have
yes, I'm all
anything to
right.
give you. I have coconut water.
Yeah, no, that's all right. But when you go one level up, after a person's physiological needs are met, then comes the safety needs.
Yes.
That's right. And the safety needs, that's work
Mm-hmm.
and home, things like that, things
Yeah.
that will provide you safety.
Mm-hmm. So shelter. That's right.
That's right. Shelter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When you go one level above safety,
Mm-hmm.
where do you go?
So one level above safety, sense of belonging, community, right? Feeling connected,
That's right.
connectedness, and that's so, you know. It makes me think of the people we see at Arise and Live Christian Counseling.
Mm.
A lot of times we'll have maybe a family or a couple seek therapy,
Yeah.
but when things start to really shake up with their safety, with their not so much the physiological needs, because oftentimes those needs are met,
Right.
but shelter, transportation, that sort of thing. They
Right. So car breaks down, something's wrong with the
Yes,
car,
exactly.
the threat of foreclosure
Uh-huh.
or just some imminent danger to their their
Yeah.
home, apartment, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, they tend to remove the necessity for counseling. And I get the logic behind that, right? But it would make sense. Right now, our shelter is at risk.
Yeah.
So, again, foundation, physiological need, secondarily, shelter, third, we have this love and feeling belonging, sense of community,
Yes.
that sort of thing. But yes, so that's the third area.
That's right. And I'll say this, not only that, but individuals may forego love and belonging. They may forego those relationships to secure some of the
Safety,
prior
yes.
levels, which
Yeah.
which are, okay, I'm going to forego this relationship because I need a place to live, or I need
Yes.
shelter, or I need to repair my car, or
Right.
I need to eat food. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so as we go through this hierarchy or hierarchical needs triangle here, it's understood that you must be able to successfully master one level in order to move up to the next level.
Yes.
Okay. And then if you have not mastered it, you're going to have problems
In the
as
next
you
areas.
go up
Yeah.
the next levels. All right. So we start out with physiological, then we go into the safety needs. Then we just mentioned love and belonging. One level above love and belonging is the need for esteem. Okay. And the need for esteem is that need of accomplishment. Okay. I need to feel that I'm successful,
Yeah.
that I'm
making an impact.
That's right.
Yeah. I'm doing something meaningful. You may hear talks about purpose. You may
That's
start
right.
to ask, what is my purpose? And you're free to do that if you have your foundational needs met, your safety needs are met, there's this sense of community and belonging.
That's
Now you're
right.
free to think, oh, why am I here?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And so the very last level to this, and then we'll tie in what financial trauma is within this understanding. The very top of the pyramid, or the top of the triangle,
Yes.
what it is, the top of the triangle is self-actualization.
Yes.
And this could mean two things. This could be connecting yourself spiritually to God, or just having that sense of connection to things bigger than yourself.
Yeah.
Or it could mean that you've reached your full potential and now you're completely satisfied with yourself, because you feel as if you've exhausted all that who you are, and you can now, in a sense, sort of rest. There's nothing else to worry about or have a need for. And that's why it's also spiritual, because individuals who do achieve connection with God, they feel the sense of peace. I have no reason to worry about my needs because I've reached self-actualization, in a sense.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's what Christ gives us. Christ gives us peace. Now, I will say a shortcut to all of this is, if you can develop and prioritize your relationship with Christ,
Yeah.
you will have self-actualization, even if all of the below levels
Are not met.
are not met.
Interesting. Yeah.
That is sort of a Christian perspective on this hierarchy of needs. Okay.
Yes.
I will say this: financial trauma messes up all of that. Okay. And so here's the nuts and bolts. Here's the nitty gritty of what we're talking about today.
All right.
How does financial trauma
Lay
impact
it on
this?
us, Dr. Pugh.
Let's go down to the very base of this triangle. Our basic needs, okay, are in the two levels. The first level being physiological, your food, your water, and also your sleep, the need to sleep. And then one level above that, again, are the safety needs.
Shelter.
Your shelter,
transportation.
your transportation, your work. Those are the things that make you feel safe. When you, in your childhood, when you experience a scarcity of money, so maybe you grew up poor, so this could be poverty. Maybe you've experienced frequent evictions or frequent moving. Things were unstable. Maybe you've experienced malnourishment, right? Sort of a milder form of starvation.
Yeah.
All of those things connected to money, right? As you grow older, you learn that those things are connected to money. The trauma then tells you, and it teaches you how to exist without those elements,
Those basic needs.
those basic needs. Trauma teaches you that it's okay to forego sleep. It's okay to forego food. It's okay to forego shelter. It's okay to forego it teaches you that all of those things can be sacrificed because that's what you've been used to. That's what you've learned, right? And so now when you're an adult and you're questioning, you're asking yourself, why am I constantly going through evictions? Why am I I can't seem to keep a job. I can't seem to, acquire those basic needs.
Yeah.
Or it could be the reverse. And what I mean by that is it could be, why am I a workaholic? Remember, a basic physiological need is sleep. Okay? What do workaholics sacrifice?
Anything, everything.
Anything and everything, right. But what's one of the things that they sacrifice in order to work?
Oh my goodness, sleep for sure.
They sacrifice sleep because the trauma has told them
If you
that
don't work, you die.
if you don't work, you die, right?
Yes.
And so in order to protect the safety.
Scripture doesn't help though. Scripture says the man don't work, he don't eat. No, I'm sorry, Lord. I'm not blaming you.
But this is a trauma response, right?
Yes.
Because these are the behaviors, right? Trauma, again, is not necessarily the incident. That's the activating event.
Yes.
But trauma, that's the behavior.
A response.
That's how you respond.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Is some of that making sense? At least I hope it makes sense for the viewers.
Absolutely, it makes sense. It makes very good sense. What I'm hearing you say is when you're introduced to those types of losses early in your development, it becomes an option.
That's right.
I saw mommy and daddy get evicted, so this is just a part of life. And while you may not say, yeah, this is an acceptable option, that's what it ultimately leads to.
That's
that
right.
This is it's an option. Whereas an individual who perhaps didn't experience that, that's not an option. And so what that may lead to is they will find all sorts of other ways to prevent that from happening. And that becomes natural. That becomes the normal response for them.
That's right.
Because I've not been, an eviction is just not something it's not going to get that far, right?
That's right.
Another thing too is if you think about the sudden loss of shelter, it also may mean that there are certain behaviors that were being modeled before that child that lead to such an outcome. Because it's not that someone just happened into an eviction. There are certain behaviors that would lead to that, right? Or, loss of a job where you're going from job to job. What are those behaviors, right? And so we learn by what we see, especially in our very vulnerable stages of development.
That's right.
And it gets implanted in our brains, and then it just comes out as we start to do life,
Exactly.
whether we believe it or not. So, the age-old, do as I say, not as I do, it doesn't work.
It doesn't.
Yes.
It doesn't. And I'll say this, and so this becomes problematic in relationships, in family relationships, and in marital relationships. So if it's just a husband and wife, it's problematic. If there's children in the system, it's problematic. The more obvious one is with children, because you transmit these messages to your children and then it perpetuates, right? And then that's where we get generational curses from, right? So whether you believe in a generational curse or if you just believe in the transmission of negative messages, it's all the same. But the other part of that is between husbands and wives in the relationship there. Because remember, if we're going according to the needs hierarchy, we start out with physiological, right? Food, sleep, that type of thing. But if I'm traumatized, then my response is, oh, I can do without that. I don't need that. Problem number one. Okay. Let's put that in the back of our mind. Then if we go to needs number two, the next level up, safety. Well, I know what it's like to live on the street or live out of my car or, not have a secure home. Problem number two. The next level up from there is love and belonging. So what happens is that traumatized individual who skipped those two milestones, let's call them developmental milestones, they skip them and then they attempt to get into a relationship with someone and they connect and they love, they want to belong. but it's problematic because that other individual most likely has not experienced that.
Yeah.
And if they did experience that, the developmental need for safety and physiological needs, whether or not you ignore them, they don't go away.
Yeah.
So that need to accomplish successfully the missing milestones will always show up
Yes.
in the love and relationship level,
Yes.
and there will be perpetual problems.
Yeah.
And so the way in which you resolve that, you have to go back.
Yeah. Yes, you have to confront the incidents that might have led to trauma in your life.
That's right.
And you have to take in some new information about what has happened, and assess your philosophy that was a result of what you might have experienced.
That's right.
And then you have to retrain yourself. What's true? What's a healthier outlook in life?
Yes.
And this is not to ever discount or make anyone feel bad. We have lived and had some very unfortunate incidents in our lifetime.
Yes.
We're not super old yet, but we have lived through some very, very hard times, and
Yes.
and I'm sure we'll have other hard times. Just because we're believers, and we're not exempt from hard times. People
That's
just
right.
aren't exempt. What we really want to hone in on is when if you find that you're stuck in a cycle and so badly want to exit that cycle, we want for you to consider, have I at some point in my life experienced a traumatic event that might be contributing to a philosophy I've grabbed a hold of,
That's
that's
right.
informing my decisions, and that's what's keeping me trapped.
That's
And
right.
so that's the purpose of this conversation. It's not to make anybody feel guilty, feel bad, feel condemned, or feel bad in any way.
That's right. Scripture says the truth will make you
us
free.
Set us
That's
free.
right.
Yes.
And if you don't know the truth, you'll be trapped in these negative cycles
Yeah.
forever.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
And so let's continue going up this triangle.
Yes.
Right? So if you, again, experience trauma and you forego the basic needs in life, you forego your shelter, you forego
Yes.
your sleep, you forego your food, you forego your work, home, all of those things, and you try to connect in relationships. We just explained how that will be problematic.
Yes.
But if you go one level above that, which is esteem, that's such a sense of accomplishment, you'll have problems there too.
Yes, because you won't feel accomplished, because those basic needs you would have felt that you failed in supplying or providing for
Exactly.
yourself. Much more providing in a relationship.
That's right.
And as you outlined so well, Terrell, you said that when you try to connect at that third level, the person who didn't successfully fill the two prior stages, and are now connecting with someone who did and has that expectation that those are provisions that are going to be made. There is disconnect here.
There's disconnection.
There's distress.
Yeah. And remember, even if the other individual in the relationship has experienced an equal level of trauma. So for example, let's say the man and the woman both skipped those two first levels, and they both hold to the idea of, I can sacrifice.
We can do without it. We can live in our car.
That's right. If they both experience that, whether they realize it or whether they want to fight against it, the reason why it's called a physiological need is because it's rooted in your physical body.
Yeah.
So no matter what you do,
That need is still there.
the need and your mind will tell you you need to be safe. You need to be fed. You need to have income. Okay? And you will find yourself in perpetual arguments with the individual, fighting over things that you think it's I left the cap off the toothpaste, but what it really is
I have a need that isn't being met.
that's right. I have a need, more specifically for a stable job.
Yeah.
I have a need for continued income or a
That's
safe
right.
place to live. You
Yeah.
know, the neighborhood we're living in isn't safe.
Yes, yes.
So,
And when you think about, because we could bring everything back to Genesis, right? In the very beginning, God gave Adam a home.
that's right.
He
Gave him a home.
home. And what else did he give him?
Gave him a job.
He gave him a job. Yes, he did.
He gave him food, unlimited.
Yes, unlimited supply of food.
He said, the herbs of the ground, the grass, the trees,
Yes,
they shall
yes.
be for you food.
Yes, absolutely. So these needs are not being made. These weren't socially.
No, they're not social constructs.
Yes, no. They were there from the very beginning. God recognized or put these needs in us.
That's right.
Yes.
And I want to say another thing about the need for esteem, right? So individuals, again, who skip the milestones of the basics, right? Those two, safety and physiological, and they go up to love and belonging, have problems there. They go up to esteem, have problems there. Sometimes what happens with individuals who are struggling with esteem, the trauma has convinced them so much that they don't need the prior elements, the prior stages, milestones. The mind sometimes tricks them into believing that they have accomplished them in some way. So if the mind doesn't tell them, hey, you can do without it, then the other message the mind says, the brain will send is,
You have it.
You have it. You've already, right. It gives
Yeah.
you the illusion or the
Yeah.
delusion
Yeah.
that you've achieved safety.
Wow.
Okay. And that's really what a delusion is. The delusion is something that essentially you believe is real,
That
but really isn't real.
Yes.
Okay. In this case, this is sort of like a psychological delusion. Okay. But if you go one level above that, right, which is the top level,
Yes.
self-actualization.
Yes.
How does trauma, financial trauma, impact self-actualization, right? Sort of that top level, that level of I've arrived, or even your relationship with God.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I can't say conclusively all of the ways that can impact self-actualization. I can say what I've observed.
Yes.
And what I've observed is individuals who don't successfully carry out or meet those basic needs, they'll get to a place where they don't believe in a higher power. They don't believe in God because if there were a God, I wouldn't have had to suffer. Not recognizing or taking into account the decisions that might have led them to miss out on certain things.
Yes.
Is everyone well? And I won't go there, but yes.
No,
and
no,
So
you're right there. You're right, because that's what happens. Individuals then they begin to scapegoat
yes,
because
that's easy.
it's easy. And sometimes if life gets to the point where things become unexplainable to you, right? Or not unexplainable, but things get so difficult. Your decisions become so the consequences are just so heavy for you. Your trauma response is to flee. It's flight.
Yeah.
And what that looks like, it can look like you blaming someone else. Okay.
Yeah.
Fighting would look like, I'm taking responsibility. I'm going to work on this. This is my fault. Right.
Yeah.
I lost the job.
Yeah.
You know, I'm the one with the issue. The flight response in trauma can look like,
Passing blame.
it's not my fault. The reason why I got fired was because of this, or the reason why this happened was because of that. I guess, maybe God doesn't like me, or, everything happens for a reason, but you're not taking ownership.
That's right.
Because remember, self-actualization is also self-fulfillment. It's when you can look at yourself in the mirror and say, I've done a good job.
Yeah. Yeah. Another thing I've observed with this piece is the opposite a little bit, where one may succumb to, they do believe in God, but they are quicker to
accept the
ex-
suffering or accept
yes,
the
yes,
yes.
stating it happened for a reason. You know,
That's right.
God, this is what God wanted. It's okay. God is in this. I'm just gonna uh, keep on going. You know, this must just be the will for my life at this point,
Mm-hmm.
and that's okay. Not realizing,
Mm-hmm.
and this is not a prosperity message.
That's right.
Okay,
That's
not
right.
at all.
And so to that, I want to say this,
Yes.
and then I want you to continue.
Yes.
There is certainly so
Mhm.
there's what's called the doctrine of suffering, and
Mhm.
so within the Christian's experience,
Mhm.
there will be suffering.
Yes.
Okay, so the suffering we're talking about now is not that. Okay,
Correct.
sometimes they might overlap, but that's not what we're talking about. The suffering we're talking about
Mhm.
is the foregoing of physiological and safety needs
That's right.
willfully,
Yeah.
okay, as a
Yes.
result of trauma. So the decision to
Mhm.
maybe be okay with not working or
Mhm.
be okay with being a workaholic and not spending time with family, those
Yes.
types of decisions
Yes. Yes.
that result in one's suffering.
That's right. And I don't want to overlook the workaholic response
Hmm.
because that's a big one. That's one that I know myself personally. I suffer with. It's the Jamaican syndrome.
I don't know about that.
um, yes, but what with that? No, it's true. You know, another observation uh, is that an individual, because they've experienced trauma, has made an internal vow
Hmm.
to themselves. They don't know they've done it, but they've done it. That they will never not have a job, or
Hmm.
it may be never not have more than one job.
Hmm.
And if they sense that anything threatens that, even the love of their family, even not the love, but the time
Hmm.
with their family,
Yeah.
they will actually sacrifice that because of out of they're thinking survival, but that's because it's a traumatic response.
That's right.
It's a trauma response. And so, you know, what do you do if you're one of those individuals? Well, first you have to, and if you don't know that you're one of those individuals, I want you to just consider the decisions you've made recently. Think about, you know, the last week or two. You don't have to go back very far. Just go back to the last couple of weeks. Have you made decisions that started with your job in the middle and everything else outside of that? Or did you make decisions with yourself, your family in the middle, and everything else came after that?
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
That's a good way to track back and assess, do I have healthy boundaries in place that's actually leading to me prioritizing my family over my job? And if you conclude that, you know what, no, I don't. I think that I have to make certain decisions to make sure
Hmm.
I keep my job.
Yeah.
Okay, there's some certain truths to that, right?
That's right.
But what are those decisions sacrificing,
Exactly.
right?
And that's the question.
Hmm.
What are those decisions sacrificing?
Yeah. And so, you know,
And I'll mention this,
yeah,
being that you went here before, I don't want to lose too much time.
yes.
The question might come up, right? So to talk about some of the other elements on the pyramid, we'll go
Mhm.
to the psychological needs,
Okay.
which are the middle two.
Mhm.
That's the need for love and belonging, again, to remind you.
Mhm.
And that's the need for esteem.
Mm.
Okay. And so the question is, how does financial trauma show up
Mhm.
in those areas with
Mhm.
love and belonging and esteem?
Mhm.
Remember what we said earlier. The
Mhm.
brain views and understands money three
Mhm.
ways. One of those ways is it interprets it as,
Life or death.
well, yeah, life or death.
I'm sorry.
No, that's good. Yeah, life
Yeah.
or death. And then the third is
Social.
social.
Social status, right?
Right, social status. So let's just say maybe you had early experiences, or
Mhm.
you grew up in a household where money was used to control, right? To
Mm.
control the relationship.
Ooh.
Okay.
Mm.
That's the financial trauma in that area.
Yeah.
You you did not learn what it was like to have a healthy relationship with money
Mhm.
and people in the mix.
Mm.
And it could be as simple as, it doesn't even have to be on the level of caregivers like your parents.
Right.
It could be maybe you was from a well-to-do family and you was just a kid in school that always had lunch money, and everybody wants to be your friend.
Yes.
So now you've developed the message of, if I have money,
you'll get lots of friends.
then I'll get lots of friends. And so in your adulthood, that love and belonging on the hierarchy of needs, the way you interpret and use money is to buy friendships.
Yeah.
Or if someone's not a friend with you, you may feel,
if you buy them something
right,
nice enough.
And so now you're a gift giver. You think you're just a generous person, but really what it is it's you trying to buy friendship so you can be approved.
Yes.
And so that could be a way in which financial trauma shows up in those areas. The same thing with esteem. I need to feel good by using my money to gain a social status so I can be accepted. So that's how financial trauma can come out in those areas.
And I wonder if we can say, so there's financial trauma, and then there's maybe unhealthy relationship with money. Right?
And
So,
I mean,
I think
you're saying
I think
we can
those,
delineate those two things
right,
as two
right.
separate concepts?
Yeah, because I can see, I mean, an unhealthy relationship with money could be a result of early financial trauma, right?
Yeah.
And again, all trauma is, it's just your response to particular incident or an event. But say someone from a well-to-do family develops this idea that in order to have friendships, you have to be able to buy nice things, and we even observe that in certain relationships where one spouse messes up, and the answer is, let's buy you a new car, right? And it's not necessarily that that there was a traumatic event, but that they learned vicariously unhealthy messages about money, relationship with money.
So I'll say this, at least how I'm defining it and understanding it, and would explain it, it's the same thing, because all trauma is, it's sort of it's when you become overwhelmed and are unable to respond appropriately. So it's just overwhelmed. So I can be overwhelmed with grief and hurt and not know what to do, and so I'm going to buy you a car. First of all, that's me being impulsive, especially if I don't have car money.
Okay. You can just buy me a car. No, I'm kidding.
But, if I don't have that type of money, that's obviously not a good decision. It's impulsive.
Yeah.
And I've been overwhelmed. And so by definition, that's traumatic. I'm responding in a traumatic way.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Good deal. That was just a thought that came to mind because as we were talking, I was just seeing unhealthy relationship with money. That's an unhealthy relationship with how to handle money. That's an unhealthy idea or understanding of what money is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so just to also, so you'll understand this, when we're saying trauma, what we're also saying is your brain has developed habits. So to use your word unhealthy, your brain has developed unhealthy habits, unhealthy neurological pathways that are now second nature to it, that are now reactionary to
Automatic responses.
that are now your automatic responses. Right.
Yeah.
And so the way out of everything that we're talking about, to sort of give you a one-word answer on how do I fix this? How do I heal from this? You have to develop better habits. That's what it boils down to. Whatever you do, however you get to it, whatever counseling you receive, whatever therapy you receive, whatever deliverance you receive, what it's going to look like you developing healthy habits. I promise you that. Becoming aware of the situation, of the issue, and then developing healthy habits. And all a habit is doing the same thing over and over and over, but doing it the right way. It's like the saying, when they say practice makes perfect.
Practice.
Perfect practice makes perfect.
That's right.
That's right. So you do do the right thing, but do it over and over and over until it becomes second nature.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. All right. What's
hmm
another way we can overcome this, or is that the only way?
The other way you can overcome financial trauma.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the other way you can overcome financial trauma is by making a whole lot of money, and then no,
I'm
no,
with
no,
that one. Need to get another job, honey.
no,
No,
no, no, because it's not always about making a lot of money,
it isn't.
right? You can have a lot of money and
Not
still
have healthy habits
egg
and
exactly.
still suffer.
You can
That's
still
right.
overspend. I mean, look at all
Mm-hmm.
of the stories we hear about people who have millions and then end up broke,
Yeah, that's true.
right?
Very true. Very true.
You know, or people who have that type of money and they need other people to manage it
Mm-hmm.
because they don't take the time to do the work so that they can manage it or at least be part of that process somewhere.
Yeah.
So yeah, but
Not
I
that
would
we want to put accountants out of a work job or anything.
no, 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 accountants, we need accountants.
Yes, we
Yeah.
do. We do.
Yes.
Financial planners. You guys are very much needed. So
Absolutely.
yes.
Absolutely.
This is good. This is good. I
hmm
think. Yeah. Hopefully, this was helpful to all of you. If you have
Yes.
questions, please reach out and ask. We'll be more than happy to take some time to respond to those.
hmm
And if you feel that you know what, I think I might need a little bit more support to
hmm
move out of this cycle that I'm in, then please call us. Visit our website, ariseandlive.com,
That's right.
and set up an appointment.
That's right. If you're wondering, look, I'm when it comes to money, I'm just going to go through a couple of things.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to money, ask yourself, am I avoidant? Do I avoid conversations
Mm.
talking about money?
Mm.
Um, do I not want to be held accountable for my spending?
Mm.
Do I use terms like, it's my money, I can spend it. I worked for it, I can spend it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, do you overspend? Are you so generous where
Oops.
you're just giving away all your money, where you're now making life difficult for yourself, or
Whoa.
you're taking money from your family, using it somewhere else? Are you underspending, meaning maybe you're stingy with money? um, are you compulsive,
Mm.
in your spending? Are you hoarding your money?
Overly cautious.
Again, yeah, overly cautious. I don't know if I
Mm-hmm.
should do this. I don't know if I should do that.
Yeah.
Um, do you not like money?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe your philosophy is, money's evil. I don't like it. I don't like to keep a lot of it. I
Mm.
want to, all I need is, a bag of rice and some boiled water,
Hey,
you
that
know,
that that that
and
might
a
works.
cardboard box. Is that you?
Hey,
Um,
there's some people that are like that.
mm,
I'll never forget there was this man in Jamaica. He lived literally under a tree. He
mm,
had like a little hut and he lived under the tree. He'd come outside. But I think he had some mental illness though.
yeah.
But
And I would say that, a lot of this is also um, cultural also.
true.
We have to take into cultural aspects. So
Yeah.
if you're in a place where a behavior such as that is normal, then
Mm-hmm.
then that's different,
True.
right?
Very true.
Um, if you are workaholic, like we said earlier,
Mm-hmm.
if maybe you have unbalanced ambition, right? Maybe you're just
Mm.
really ambitious.
Mm.
If you fall into any one of those categories, if you struggle in any one of those areas, I would say financial therapy um, and counseling could help tremendously for you to
Mm-hmm.
become a healthy, stable individual in this area.
That's right.
Reach out to us. We can help you if that's you.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. And we
yeah,
can even point you to some financial therapists where that is their primary focus.
that's right.
But yeah, you can start with us.
That's right. That's right. But all right. Well, I think that's all for today's episode of the Gabby Podcast. We want to thank you, and we also want to remind you that,
It'll be okay.
amen, it will
We'll
be
be
okay.
okay. All right. God bless you. Bye bye. Till next time.
Hello, this is Terrell Pugh, and thank you so much for listening to the Gabby Podcast. How would you like to do what you love, working with couples as a marriage coach or with individuals and families as a Christian counselor? Well, we can help you over at tntpugh.com. That's tntpew.com. Hey, we'd love to help you get started today, again, working as a marriage coach or a Christian counselor. Head over to tntpew.com. Thank you.